Our campaign is saying that there is no medical necessity. It's a criminal offence to take the life of an unborn child, and from today we will be ensuring that obstetricians and gynecologists, psychiatrists and any other member of the medical profession that are ill-informed in regard to the law here and the protection that the children in Northern Ireland have with the law will clearly know different after today. I think it's time that Northern Ireland faced the reality that we do not need to kill unborn children to safeguard the lives of women.
The question then is why? Why would people who might want to promote practice of abortion argue medical necessity? Why not just argue, abortion on demand rights or some other avenue? And it turns the killing of the child into a medical process as opposed to a criminal process. Make no mistake, that is the intention of the people like the FPA and other International Planned Parenthood Association. They speak very openly about it. Their intention is to medicalise it, and then the next stage will be to insist upon it as a right, as a human right. So it is a stepping stone.
Bernie Smith's campaigning tactics have evolved from the early days of Precious Life to become more overtly political. She's drawn substantial inspiration from the mainstream pro-life movement in the United States, where a Supreme Court judgment liberalised abortion in 1973. One of America's most high-profile pro-life figures is a Republican Congressman Chris Smith, a former human rights lawyer.
We ought to be, all of us, more like Ireland. And frankly, if it wasn't for the Supreme Court decision, the Congress would have never legalized abortion. This was thrust upon us by judicial fiat, and now we're living with the consequences. 51 million unborn babies killed by abortion.
I've been to America. I've met with Congressman Chris Smith on a number of occasions. I've been very encouraged by the pro-life movement in the States. The tide is turning in the States. We can now see that the majority of young people are pro-life, and that's very encouraging for us also. When we meet with pro-life leaders, we see the success of their campaigns, the work that they're involved in, and the commitment that the pro-life majority in America give to this battle.
Bernadette Smith is a leader, not just in Northern Ireland, but an inspiration to the world because she is so tenacious, so clear-thinking, and so compassionate. She is just the kind of leader, human rights leader, that people want to follow. And she rallies all of us. I get great inspiration when I talk to her. And when she's here, when I've seen her in Ireland, and it's just, she's just, and she really is determined to make sure that truth prevails.
Audrey too has support here. A former pro-choice campaigner from the south of Ireland, John O'Brien, now heads up a Catholic choice organisation in Washington. He's very familiar with the culture that surrounds the abortion issue in Ireland.
The people in Ireland, north and south, have always had a scapegoat. The scapegoat is that women who desperately need this operation can actually go to London, go to Birmingham, go to Manchester, go to the Netherlands or go to Spain. Abortion tourism is what hypocrisy has created. I think that's what makes Audrey and the Family Planning Association special. We really are, our community is a community that sees the entire totality of women and the difficult lives that they sometimes have and want to do something about that. And if that means telling the truth, people like Audrey Simpson are not afraid to do so.
Audrey draws her greatest strength, though, from colleagues involved in reproductive health campaigning in London.
It's really quite important that we have that relationship with the organisations who are providing abortions in England, because we like to work with them to ensure that the women from Northern Ireland get appropriate treatment, and it's recognised that their circumstances are different from people from England, Scotland or Wales.
Today, she's updating them on where their campaign stands, the devolution of abortion and the pro-life campaign of abortion never being a medical necessity.
They're paying exactly the same taxes. They're part of the UK, they're supposed to have access to NHS services. And, you know, why are women in Northern Ireland different from women in Scotland, Wales and England? Why are they treated differently? Why are they discriminated on a daily basis? You know, that's the frustrating thing for me.
If I just sort of run through about the devolution of policing and justice, as you probably know, the deal has now been done, and that the responsibility for policing and justice goes back to Northern Ireland and to the Assembly. In theory, or in reality, that the Northern Ireland Assembly could legislate on abortion to say that women couldn't travel. But I don't think they could do that, because that would be in breach of European law. So I think that what they would probably do is that we would...
It's bizarre that Audrey comes to a meeting in Britain and she's talking to us about responsibility for law and order being devolved. And that is going to be a primary thing that will have an impact on what in Britain is seen as being a healthcare debate.
There was something quite recently where they did something where it said that abortion is never necessary medically.
Which is nonsense.
Do they have their own definition of what would be acceptable as life-threatening? Because I think that would really crystallise for people who aren't really aware of their tactics just how little they do care for women's health. And I think it'd be really interesting.
It's always very difficult when somebody is told that their very wanted baby has something very significantly wrong with it. It's always harrowing and difficult. But I think some of the stories that really resonate with me and stay with me are the callers I've spoken to from Northern Ireland, because not only are they put in this very, very painful situation, they have the added difficulty of, if they do want to end that pregnancy, having to organise that for themselves, having to pay for that for themselves, having to perhaps keep it very quiet within their local community because they're worried about what other attitudes may be, and so they can be especially isolated at a time when they're absolutely, well, in emotional turmoil, I suppose is the word.
If you think about some of their literature, which says that, for example, if a woman has an ectopic pregnancy, she doesn't need to have an abortion because they'll just transfer it into the healthy tube. Yes, I know. And if you have been raped,